Hello, welcome to the Geeks4Streets Podcast, where we go over stupid geeky shit and sometimes relevant information. This is a quick introductory podcast with just to introduce you to our host and co-hosts. I'm the host, wyrmslayer Z, along with our co-host, ViciousOne and Hazmatts. And as I've said, today will be rather simple. We're just going to go over the introductions and what we do, and just a generalization of what makes us us. Let's start with ViciousOne, aka Vicious. Vicious, what did you do for school? Like, what did you go to school for?
Psychology.
So I heard that you and Hazmatts wrote a book.
Yeah, we wrote a book together.
Uh,
Viniculum and the Elder's Envy. It's the first in what's going to be a series. We've
where
already started on the second.
where can it be found? And give us details about it.
On Amazon, and I would ask Hazmat the details about it.
All right. Well, once we get talking to
But
Hazmatts.
it is loosely based off of my son, who has some mental health issues, and sometimes he would see this other world, and I always wondered what it would actually look like, written out, or in somebody else's mind. And I discussed it with Hazmat, and Hazmat had some great ideas, and him and I flow great together in the writing process, and I think it all came together really, really awesome.
Cool. So it can be found on Amazon, and is it in paperback, hardback, or?
You can either get it in the ebook format or paperback format.
Okay. Uh, do you guys know if there's ever going to be a hardback coming out? Out?
We're hopeful that maybe we can eventually get it in hardback format. Currently, I'm having to fix some errors in it. We trusted our editor a little bit too much, and we found some errors in it after publishing. So we're gonna have to fix it and republish it. And then hopefully after that, we can figure out how we could get it in hardback format for people.
Do you have an ETA on like what's the generalization? What's the hope for day that
And
you
hard
this? Yes,
day that we can get it in hardback.
and republished.
I don't have. Hopefully, I mean, I can't really say right now. Depends on how long it takes me to fix these errors.
Alrighty. And I know that you.
I think our editor might have messed it up more than when we gave it to her. So it might take a little bit.
And I know that you hopped on to our stream. Well, not our. Well, yeah, Hazmat stream for a little bit. I know you hopped onto our stream and talked with us on our stream and stuff. Have you ever thought about streaming?
You two keep telling me to, but I have, as of right now, no.
Well, yes, I definitely tell you to, but I just wanted to know if you thought of it. Ever gave it
No,
any thought?
you two constantly telling me to makes me think about it, but as of right now, no. I have too many other things that I do to be able to really fit that into my schedule right now.
And
Honestly, I wouldn't even know where to start.
I got you. My next question was where did the inspiration come from for the book, but it seems like we already got that answered. And
Yeah.
and is there anything that you'd like to add about yourself, about what you do, what you've done?
As in what?
As in, like, what you want to go to school for, what you're still striving for, what your goals are, like, what makes you you.
I eventually would like to go back and finish and get my doctorate and all of that stuff. Currently, I'm dealing with an injury that has taken up a lot of my time with doctor's appointments right and left, and then of course I have special needs children that I have a lot of appointments for. So between all of that right now, I find it difficult to fit school into my schedule well. So I mean, eventually I'd like to, yes, And that is something I strive for, but I'm also going back and forth with either going back to school for psychology or if I want to go into, writing, because I have found that is something that I incredibly enjoy. So I'm kind of, I think that's also kind of stopping me too, because I'm kind of going back and forth between things. So until I really am set on what I want to do, I don't want to like just jump into something.
I gotcha. Um, is there anything you'd like to ask me, or do you want to wait until I do my introduction?
I'll just wait until you do your introduction.
All right. And the last question for you, Vicious, before we move on to Hazmat. Obviously, Hazmat, you can jump in. I forgot to tell you, you can jump in and ask questions for Vicious if you want. But this is the last question I'm going to ask her. Are you a dork?
Yes.
Perfect. That was the best answer you could have given. Hazmat. What is your input as the co-author for the book Viniculum?
What do you mean by input?
What do you want to add? You are the co-author, and Vicious, if I remember correctly, in the beginning said if you want to know the details of the book, to ask you.
Oh, yeah, let's go with that. So, the way the book started, as Vicious said, was her son several years ago. I mean, he still deals with some of the things today, but he was seeing another world that we thought was interesting, and he would talk about it a lot. So, Vicious one day called me while I was at school when I was in my undergrad, and I had a 2 hour break, and she was talking to me about it, and I said, well, she was struggling because she wasn't as adept at fighting scenes, action scenes, and that's the sort of creative mind that I have. I'm good at action and flow when it comes to that type of stuff, and she's a lot better at character building. So I said, you know what? She couldn't figure out how to put it on paper. So I said, let me write the first chapter out while I'm on my break, and I'll send it to you, and you can tell me what you think. So I made a character sheet with her that I shared. She liked it. I wrote out the most of the first chapter, sent it to her, and she was like, "I love it. It's exactly what I was thinking." And at that point, we just were able to really flow off of each other. We had it in a document where we could write it at any time. And it took a while because what I've always followed is you never rush creativity. So we would just write when we felt like we could write. We felt like when we thought we had a good idea, we'd write it down. So it took a little bit longer, but it worked out really well. I like the way it came out before we sent it to our editor. We actually didn't have very many things wrong with it, as Vicious and I are both very meticulous, excuse me, as far as like we have kind of some OCD tendencies, things like that. So we pay very close attention to detail. Our cover artist, Jason Cross, if you don't know him, you should look up Jcrossart on Facebook.
We will have we'll have his link in the details.
Perfect. He's got some great work. He did our cover art. We love the cover art. I read the first part of the first chapter, and there was no problems when it came back from our editor, and I was very, very happy with it. And I should have read more of it. I didn't. We published it, and some of my friends found some errors, so we've been going through the book, finding all the errors. Once we find them all, we're going to republish it. If you've already purchased a copy of Viniculum and the Elder's Envy, you should be able to submit a refund once we get the new one and get the better version back if you'd like. I have a lot of friends saying they're just okay with the story. They really enjoy the story. So the editing isn't bothering them, but it does bother Vicious and I. So we're trying to get out a more polished copy. And as far as the synopsis goes, I don't want to give too much away of the story, but I will give you a little bit of insights to see if you might be interested in it. It is a young adult novel. There's going to be a whole series of them. The first one's called Viniculum and the Elder's Envy. The second one will be called Mega's Haven and the Mad Warlock's Grimoire. This first one, it's about a boy named Jace Jensen. Grew up with some apparent mental disorders, and he has an imaginary friend he sees that looks just like him. He visits this other world. Him and his friend Jack, who looks just like him, ends up getting in all kinds of trouble or on all these sorts of these different adventures. There's a lot of villains. There's a ton of action in it, a lot of page turners, just as much as there is some character building. Like I said, Vicious and I collaborated with that. It turned out really well. Just imagine basically a sci-fi world where you're going to be able to see almost every character's story. It's going to be one of those types of things. You'll see almost every character's backstory. There'll be some really crazy villains in there. There'll be even a little bit of romance entwined in there. Vicious had all to do with all of that. I couldn't do any of that. But
it's like an action-packed fantasy, sci-fi. I mean, it's got all of that in there.
Yeah, so that's kind of my input on Vicious and the Elder's Envy. I hope whoever purchases a copy definitely enjoys it. There's an ebook and there's a paperback, and like Vicious and Worm were talking about earlier, there may be a hardback in the future, but the ebook's very cheap. It's $3. If you want to just support some new and upcoming authors, it's $3 for an ebook. If you want the paperback, it's a little bit more expensive because the way Amazon formatted it was like an ebook, so there's a lot of pages. What
would you say your favorite chapter is?
My favorite chapter? So there was a character that I had all to do with. I basically wrote that whole chapter. Just like Vicious wrote the whole romance chapter.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the one I said I'm not going to touch. That's your character. Yeah.
Vicious said I'm not touching that character. I'm a very goofy person, and like if you know me in person, you know I'm like a very, very goofy person, and I really like reflecting on that. And there is a comic relief character in our book, and his name is Timmy Link, and he actually has some major roles in the book, which is hilarious. But he is basically the comedian of the group. He's very funny, and he's very, how should I say this? He's very, what did you call it, Worm, when you read that chapter?
Doofus?
No, not doofus. You said something else. He's very,
Well, see, I think he's more funny because he doesn't know he's funny.
Yes.
Exactly. Dense.
Yeah.
Dense, yes.
So he's a very dense person.
Yes.
But he's also a very important character. And this whole chapter, I personally, while I was writing this character's chapter, could not stop laughing. And I'm the author. If that gives you an idea.
I know, I couldn't stop laughing, and that's why I was like, you know, when you would tell me, hey, we'll write in Timmy's chapter, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. That's your character. Okay. I'm not touching that character. I'm not screwing that up.
So
he's perfect.
So to sell you guys on this, because I sold myself on this, me and Hazmat are writing a different series. I'm not going to put details in there right now because it's still a long way from being completed. Just know that me and Hazmat are writing our own series. I'm not even going to say the name of the series because, as I said, I want to get it to a point where
I think you can say the name of the series, though, so that way people know what to look forward to.
Yeah, so we've already started writing it. It's called Ethan Emery and the Jade's Edge. Yeah. We'll be done with it fairly soon if we can get cranking down on it. All of us have a lot of projects going on right now.
Yes, absolutely. But I was gonna.
This one is the complete opposite of Viniculum and the Elder's Envy as far as the genre goes.
Oh yeah, that's because Viniculum is a young adult.
Yeah, this one is an adult trilogy. We're gonna have 3 books in this one.
Yeah, I don't want to pull from here, but basically what I'm saying is before you get into it, I apologize for interrupting, but Timmy, I've only read 1 chapter and I already want to read more, but I've got a lot of projects. That was one of the best reads I've ever had in my life, just that chapter, because Hazmat and Vicious wanted me to read it. Super good. Funniest chapter I think I've ever read in a long time.
See, and my favorite chapter for me was because like Timmy, you wrote that entire chapter. My favorite chapter was Benji, because up until the very end final fight scene, you know, the action scene that you wrote, that chapter was all me. And everybody that has read it so far has said it's very Goosebumps-ish. So, I mean, I think with having that chapter, you know, I think we even have a bit of like a thriller genre in there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that was my favorite.
Yeah, I just wanted us to complete those thoughts before we got into a different subject.
I really enjoyed reading what Vicious wrote for that chapter up to the point, because the way Vicious wrote it, it was very, like she said, it was very Goosebumpish-esque, and it led up to a climax to where when I wrote the fight scene for that, I really enjoyed it because the atmosphere that I felt as I read it gave me this creepy like energy, if that makes sense, to write that fight scene. And it was perfect in my opinion as far as leading up to that action scene, and it made that action scene that much better.
See, and I even remember you telling me that too, like it's gonna be so easy to write this fight scene.
Yeah, that was probably one of the easiest fight scenes I've ever wrote in anything. And going back to Ethan Emery and the Jade's Edge, I just want to tell you, that one is basically supernatural John Wick.
I was just getting ready to say that.
If you like supernatural stuff and you like John Wick, it's a really good book. The chapters aren't very long. It's a page turner. It's nonstop action. There's not nearly as much character building in it. I will tell you that right now. It is a nonstop page turner action book. The chapters aren't super long.
I read just the first few chapters, and that's exactly what I got from it. I mean, I think I called you right away and was like, this reminds me of Supernatural, so those people that are missing that show because, the last episode is coming, that's a good way for them to get that feel.
As Hazmatts said, it will be a trilogy, and I don't want to give off too much of it, but I will say that basically the world ended and it's post-apocalyptic, but it's not like dystopian in a way. Like the
world's kind of rebuilt itself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll
your
just say
guys' main character is awesome. Like, I have to say, I hate, but he does. He reminds me of Dean.
Oh, right. Yeah, he's a hardcore dude. The whole book it's very much thriller. It's very much supernatural feel, very much action. There's magic involved.
It is adult.
It is adult. There is gore. There is there's R-rated stuff in there. I will tell you that. I'm really excited to. It's kind of nice to be able to flex two different creative.
I was just getting ready to say that to you. Was it's great that you can, it's very a good talent to have to switch up from writing that young adult to that adult the way you have. To have these two different worlds in your head, and so kudos to you for that, because that's a good talent to have.
But segueing off of the multiple outlets and creative outlets and projects that we have underway, I know, Hazmatt, you're very musically inclined, talented in that sort of way as well. I understand that you started a TikTok and multiple stuff like that. Give us a little bit off of that.
Yeah, so I definitely don't, as a busy adult, I'm working on a master's degree right now in sports psychology with a certificate in trauma. And it takes up a lot of my time, so does work, but I constantly have these creative projects flowing in my head, and it's all these things I want to work on, and just not enough time in the day to do them. So prioritizing is a good thing, but it's good to have those outlets to plug into at the end of the day. Between writing these two books, I also play guitar, I make music, I sing, I write music. I got another guy that wants me to record with him and do some kind of R&B rap type stuff. So I do those types of things. I make videos here and there. I do some goofy stuff. Like you said, there's that TikTok that actually features Worm a lot. It's kind of
my own TikTok.
Yeah, it's kind
of...
yeah, Vicious has a TikTok too. Worm and I basically share the same TikTok, so that TikTok is called Hazmatts 775, which is also a name I basically use on everything. So if you see Hazmat or Hazmat775, it's probably me. But that's the TikTok tag. If you want to follow that, Worm and I will both be in it. Vicious, what's yours?
Oh,
Or do you want to share yours? Or?
If guys, anyone who sends me the link to their socials and stuff, it will all be in the description. That's what I was actually.
It's Becky L. Krogan.
That was actually the next segue that I was going to get into. Anywhere that I can find you guys. I know Hazmat has Facebook. He has a Twitch, but he hasn't used it in a while. He got rid of his streaming equipment for a certain amount of time, and he's thinking about starting that again. I know you've talked to me about that.
I never intended to completely quit streaming. It was I bought a house recently and I moved. I left a lot of stuff behind. I kind of started over, so I plan to start back up again and to do it a little bit more. Like I said, that master's degree takes a lot of time, so I'm gonna try to fit it into my schedule at some point. I do really enjoy doing it. Once I do start streaming again, my Twitch is also Hazmat775, so you can follow me or whatever.
Yeah,
so
you pretty much use Hazmat775 for almost all of your stuff.
Right, and what I stream is probably going to be kind of what's similar to Worm, except I also play a lot of Magic the Gathering Arena because I'm a nerd, so that'll be that too. But yeah, I plan to start up again. No specific dates, but I want to have some pretty good equipment before I do. I have some of it, but not all of it. So
I just want to add, you're not a nerd. You're a geek.
True.
Yes.
We're all nerds and geeks.
Yeah.
And worms.
Anyway.
And Worm is lame. We've established this.
Yeah, Worm is lame. That's a ongoing
if I
joke
had more
in my
of a demand
stream.
for people to want me to stream, I would stream. But I guess I have an issue with spending all of that kind of money to have no outcome.
Vicious.
And I think that's why I joined yours. If I had more people saying, "Hey, stream," I join your, I'd watch your stream, I might do it. But
you don't have to spend anything to stream. You could just stream your face and do just chatting streams, which are actually highly popular.
I almost wonder if we should just switch to Twitch for this.
It may probably, honestly. I could record as well as stream this. But anyway, segueing back into
so we could have both?
Yes, we could. But
why don't we do that?
We could. We've already said that the recordings would be Wednesday, and I could just dual stream it on Wednesday.
We should do that. That'd be cool.
But anyway, well, yeah, next week we can do that. But anyway, off topic of the podcast, let's segue back into the conversation. Last but not least, Hazmat, are you a dork?
Is that even a question?
Good. That is also an acceptable answer.
Snow White?
What?
Every person in this conversation is a dork.
All right. Yes, but that's just a reoccurring question I'm going to ask during random times during the podcast. Anyway.
Worm, are you a dork?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for asking. Anyway. Introducing myself.
You're also lame.
Okay. Introducing myself here seems to be the least important, but I'm going to do so nonetheless. I went to school, and I'm currently, hopefully, going to be going to school back for geology. I've gotten my associate's degree, and I'm taking a little bit of a break from school. I moved out of state, so hopefully not pay out-of-state tuition when I go back to school, because I plan on going to school in Colorado. I stream on Twitch, but we already know that. But it's either video games, mainly Pokemon. I do art streams, and I'm coming up with other games such as Minecraft, Fire Emblem, or Animal Crossing. You can find me on Facebook, Twitch, and now YouTube, which is going to be the VODs if we are going to be streaming this on Wednesdays, and Hazmat's TikTok. And all of the socials that we've went over will be posted in the description below. So if you want to see Vicious's TikTok or Hazmat's TikTok, Vicious's other socials. I don't know if we've talked about that. You can definitely find them, follow them, like their pages, whatever. It's great for us as to building our community up all together. This is probably the first full, how should I say?
Oh yeah, I mean our book has a Facebook page as well.
Yes, that will also be posted if you want to get more information on the book. That will be posted in the
there's also
description.
links there. There's also a shop now button on there for them to purchase the book.
Yep. So you know more about Vicious and Hazmat and me. We are geeks and we are dorks, and when you see us on Twitch, we most likely will be doofuses, geeks and dorks, because that's just simply our personalities. But we also are yeah, so I guess I'm lame. We are also people, and we are adults, so we do stuff like this to just expand our minds and expand what we want to do. I'm more
so
artsy
what do you
than
do
anything.
for fun, Worm, besides stream?
What do I do for fun? I draw, I read. That's about it, really. I'm pretty much an open book.
Like watch anime?
Watch anime, yes. Speaking of, that's a great segue for our next discussion, our next podcast discussion. Our next discussion will be about our favorite animes and why.
I think we should also, Worm, I think we should also put a request out there for people and see what they want to hear about.
Yeah, I was actually going to be asking that. I was waiting for your guys' input on that, but then again, I was kind of going through a monologue, so I apologize. Yes, if anyone, exactly as Hazmat said, if anyone wants to have a detailed discussion of like what to ask us questions in the YouTube comments. If you want to have a specific discussion based on something, put that in the comments, and our favorite ones we'll go through. Random questions will be answered at the end of the podcasts, and then the discussions, if we find a discussion topic that we click with, we'll use that in the next one. So
No, I will answer any and all questions.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't say that. But anywho, let's skip
Why shouldn't I say that?
I'll tell you after we're done recording. Anyway, let's skip that and let's go.
We're gonna be asking some freaky questions.
Oh, 100%. Anyway, this is our time. We're about 30 minutes in. This is time for us, and if you, as I said, if you want to follow us on our other socials, this is three different people, three different individuals that have very different lives, but we are all related. Vicious is my sister, Hazmat is my brother, and we all have different types of projects that we work on for fun, for entertainment, or something we're passionate about. Please follow them if you click with one of them, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
See you in the streets, geeks.
See you in the streets, geeks.